Hundreds of television channels, thousands of newspaper stories, millions of websites. There has been an explosion in media space since the creation of the internet, and that space needs to be filled. FirstWord Media provides content marketing. That means blogs, product reviews, thought leadership pieces. It's not always trying to sell a product, it's offering to establish a brand. But how do you make any product, business or service stand out in a world where everybody has a space? We went to see if FirstWord Media really are the last word when it comes to content marketing.
PR in the 1990s was a kind of paradise crossed with paradise. It was a relatively easy life. You wrote a press release and you handed it to your friend in a newspaper, and the next day there was a thing called coverage. Then the internet arrived and blew all of that up, and then social media came along and stamped on its grave. It was about 9 or 10 years ago, and I ran a campaign where we made live television programs for a client. And I could see that the world was being disintermediated. It's a big fancy word. But what it means is people now have the power to transmit and broadcast themselves directly to their own audience. And I realised very quickly that the future was about creation and production of high quality content. And the best people who could do that are journalists.
FirstWord is a content marketing agency. Content marketing is a relatively new discipline in marketing, and it is communicating via journalism with audiences, mostly over the internet. One of the reasons we started FirstWord was because the internet and the digital revolution have allowed companies to talk directly to their audiences for the first time. They've got websites to feed, they have social media to feed. Google expects them to publish regular content. Your website doesn't look very good if all the stuff that's on there is very old, and so you have to replenish it with fresh stuff.
It gets back to good old-fashioned storytelling. There's a lot of people out there, it's become a cliche in a modern day kind of mantra, oh, you've got to be a storyteller. But there are good storytellers and there are bad storytellers, and I believe that the best storytellers are people who've kind of spent 10,000 hours in a newsroom training, because that's a hard life. That is a hard world, and to operate at that level, you have to be good. The name of the game in content marketing these days, it gets back to quality, volume and frequency. It has to be very good to cut through, and then you need quite a bit of it, and you need to have it at the frequency of publishing that's going to be right for your audiences.
Talking about there's too much content is a bit like saying there are too many magazines when you go into the newsagent. There are a lot of magazines in the newsagent, but you know which ones you're interested in reading. If your interest is golf or home buying, then there are actually far fewer magazines to choose from. That's how a Google search works, and the quality of the work that comes up is what you read. Now, I feel that's a slightly negative reason for having to do content. You have to feed the beast, you have to talk, you have to feed Google, you have to feed your social media. But if you think about it in a far more positive way, this is a direct channel to your audiences that you've never had before. And companies used to have to put display advertising up, or pay for public relations and wait for people to write about them. Our mantra is, if you have something to say, just say it.
And I understand that if the building blocks of any agency are its people, and we have 4 building blocks. First of all, it's words. We need to work with the best, and we only work with the best. People with a pedigree of business journalism at the highest level, so Financial Times, Economist, Telegraph Times, etc. Pictures. Many people can call themselves graphic designers, but people who have a newsroom graphics training simply are the best. We also need an element of salespeople, and you need an element of producers, the people who can organise and gather stuff together, and typically many of them come from television newsroom training.
Our people are not deterred by difficult subjects. They've spent their life working in difficult areas and communicating in ways that make them exciting. Companies are always saying, we don't have any stories here. And we always say to them, the stories are our job. You just tell us what's big in your world, and we'll listen to them talk about the things that they're engaged in over the next 6 months. And from that, we'll produce a list of stories, populate a calendar, and get on with writing it. We've been working with all sorts of clients lately in asset management and finance and pensions and industry and fintech particularly, and lots of other technology companies. There's a Swiss fintech firm called Temenos that build banks for people. We've worked with GE, we worked with Deutsche Bank, we worked with Intesa Sanpaolo, which is Italy's biggest retail bank. One of our biggest clients, and for many years now, has been Pirelli. Brand recognition is very, very important to the content that we do, but it's crucial that it stays in the background to the material you're producing. The editorial integrity of what you produce is what will make people read it and share it and talk about it. If at a later stage I'm interested in coming to buy something from you, I'll remember the companies that curated the conversation that I have read and interacted with over the previous year.
For example, we've worked with Pirelli for over 3 years, and very rarely do we write about the actual rubber. Instead, we focus on the likes of a conversation or a debate, a discussion around the future of the automotive industry, around driverless cars or even flying cars.
We work with a lot of technology companies who are quite often engaged in small bits of the economy, but we help them to think about what the bigger picture is. An energy company is about the energy needs of the planet. A cell phone manufacturer is about our mobility and communication needs in the future. And it's those sorts of stories that we try to tease out from the little and make it big.
The tech sector is in love with jargon. The tech sector is in love with complexity. But we can offer clients a way of simplifying their stories and telling the stories really well. And the benefit of doing that is you will grow more readers, you will grow more audience, you will have more people interested in walking through your door, generating business for you. I think that's the power of storytelling.
I think FirstWord in the next 5 years is about both expanding and deepening what we do. We're already very international. A lot of our clients are abroad in the US and in continental Europe particularly. But I think it's about expanding that range. High-end business journalism is something that all companies need access to.
Future for FirstWord, 5 years' time? I guess the answer is just keep doing good work. Good work will never go out of fashion.
FirstWord is about being your partner. It's about understanding your company. It's about understanding your marketing goals. And it's about translating that into editorial themes and then producing stories that people want to read. They could be videos, infographics, the written word, it could be producing a paper, it could be online, but it's just something that thrills you, that is what you wanted to read. It entertained you or educated you or informed you, and you wanted to share it with other people afterwards.